For 73 years, a fuse has been burning, a really, really long fuse between the United States and Iran. We're going to deconstruct exactly how and why it finally ignited.
So, picture this, the near future, February 2026. That 73-year conflict? It's not cold anymore. It's finally boiled over. It's hot.
You have two sides, two operations. On one side, the US and Israel kick off Operation Epic Fury, and on the other, Iran responds with Operation True Promise 4. These aren't just names, they're the first shots in a war that's been decades in the making.
900. Just think about that number for a second. That's not the total. That's the number of strikes in just the first 12 hours. 900.
Okay, so let's break down how this war actually begins. The first phase is just overwhelming. It's a classic shock and awe strategy, right? The idea is to hit Iran so hard, so fast, that it's crippled before it can even really fight back.
So that first wave of strikes, it's aimed at high-value military targets. You're talking about nuclear complexes, like Natanz and Fordo, IRGC command centers, missile sites. But here's the thing about war. The lines get blurry, fast. A bridge is hit, a museum takes damage, a girls' school, gone. Suddenly, that line between a military target and a civilian one, it just vanishes.
But, a war like this, it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's not spontaneous. So you have to ask the big question, how did it ever come to this? To really get it, we've got to rewind, and I mean way back. Not just a few years, we're going all the way back to 1953. This whole thing, it's a grudge that's been simmering for over 70 years. It's time to follow that fuse back to the very beginning. You look at this timeline, and it's like a highlight reel of bad blood. It starts with that CIA-backed coup in '53. Then you get the Islamic Revolution in '79. After that, the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis, which, for a lot of Americans, really defined Iran. Then, the U.S. backs Iraq in a horrible war against Iran. And to top it all off, in 2002, Iran gets labeled part of the axis of evil. Each event just adds another layer of anger.
Now understand this. If you want to point to the one event that started it all, this is it, Operation Ajax. The CIA and MI6 help overthrow Iran's democratically elected leader. Why? To protect their oil interests. For Iranians, this is what they call the original sin. It's the moment the US interfered, and it created a wound that just never healed.
444. That's how many days 52 Americans were held hostage inside their own embassy in Tehran. For an entire generation of people in the US, this was their introduction to the new Iran. And that introduction was built on pure hostility.
So after all that, a pattern starts to form. And it's a predictable one, and a deadly one. It's simple, really. For every action, there's a reaction. Welcome to the cycle of retaliation.
And you can see it play out again and again. In Iran-backed bombing of U.S. Marine barracks, so the U.S. labels Iran a state sponsor of terrorism. The U.S. Navy shoots down a civilian Iranian plane. Then, years later, the U.S. assassinates a top Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani. And what happens? Iran fires missiles right back at U.S. bases. It's just tit for tat, back and forth, with each step getting more and more dangerous.
290. That's how many people died on Iran Air Flight 655. Civilians. The U.S. called it a tragic accident. Iran called it a massacre. It doesn't matter what you call it. It was just another deep wound that refused to heal.
Okay, so you take all of this history, all the anger, the mistrust, the retaliation, and it all starts to funnel down. It converges on one single, incredibly dangerous breaking point, Iran's nuclear program.
And this is where the path to war becomes a straight line. Look at how this deal just collapsed. In 2015, a landmark agreement is signed. There's real hope. But then, in 2018, the U.S. pulls out. Crushing sanctions are put back on Iran. So, with the deal dead, Iran just floors it, accelerating its nuclear program to near weapons grade. The last-ditch diplomatic talks fail, and just like that, the fuse is gone.
Which brings us right back to where we started, the fires of 2026. After 73 years, the conflict has finally exploded. But what's the result? What does this war actually look like on the ground? And is it ever going to end?
Well, 38 days in, let's get a status update. And the short version is, it's a bloody stalemate. The US and Israel are still striking, but Iran's regime hasn't fallen. In fact, they're fighting back hard, shooting down an American F-15E jet.
This isn't a quick victory. It's become a brutal war of attrition. And the human cost, it's just staggering. We're talking about thousands dead. Soldiers, civilians, it doesn't matter which side, just thousands.
Then there are the refugees, millions of people forced to flee their homes. This creates a massive crisis that shakes the entire region.
And it gets worse. The very infrastructure of life itself is being destroyed. Over 260 medical facilities, hospitals, clinics, they've been hit. They're gone. So let's be absolutely clear about the result here. There is no victory. There are no winners. There is only a devastating stalemate that has crippled everyone involved.
So after 73 years of anger, of mistrust, of retaliation, this is where it all leads. And the question we have to leave you with isn't about who wins or who loses. The real question is, after all this, can this cycle ever be broken?